All right, we're back. Another sports and culture podcast. We've been out for a little while, MIA. Both our schedules a little crazy recently, but we're back. I'm teed up. This is Mark, Jerome, and we missed a lot of topics, but let's just jump into what's top of mind for you.
Before we go into the topics, I want to talk about you having a nice little vacation in Hawaii.
Oh yeah, we had a great vacation in Hawaii. I love Hawaii. I mean, we have a little timeshare there, so
Well deserved of it. You know how hard you work.
no, it's fun. Like the, it's funny. Like the since COVID, all these weird things and the secondary market have taken off, and apparently timeshares was one of them. Um, used cars went crazy, like watches, a bunch of collectibles, all these things. But I didn't realize timeshares was also on there because a friend of mine who lives in Hawaii was telling me he's been looking at buying the timeshare just like ours because he comes and stays with us when we're there, and he's just like the price is ridiculous. It's like four times what you paid. So anyway, but apparently it's coming down now, like everything else. But there's a timeshare like bubble, I guess that who knew? I had no idea. But
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Someone Marriott calls me every once in a while to for these extended stays, and we got to go to the 90-minute meeting.
uh-huh,
But the latest stay I have is in Cabos. The hotel looks absolutely gorgeous. And for me, it's worth it. I'll go to the 90-minute meeting, and I
right.
tell them I'm sick, so I go by myself, and whoever comes with me, they don't have to go to the meeting and get to hang out in this gorgeous 2 3 bedroom apartment for 4 days.
Yeah,
It's
it's
awesome.
awesome. It is
Yeah.
awesome. I mean, we love ours. Like I bought mine secondhand used at the uh you know, I got it from some guy in New York because he thought it was too far to go to Hawaii. So I got it for like, nothing, 50% off. I think it was 50 or 60% off. It was like no, I think it was a $40,000 timeshare, and I got it for like 12 or 13 grand. Yeah, crazy. I mean, it's worth three times that already. So who knew?
Ooh, you know, there's Angie's List
Uh-huh.
and do your TW's list.
That's right.
At the end of the candle. She's only hitting a certain portion of the market. There's a lot of things
Crazy. Yeah.
like this.
So it looks like I forgot do we want to
Topics.
jump back on? It says that we only have 10 minutes.
Let's go to Caitlin Clark.
All right.
Um, before the season started, I was not a huge Caitlin Clark fan. I won't say I wasn't anti Caitlin Clark, but there's a couple of things that I've liked that happened with her. Um, I felt like she was getting a lot of publicity because she was coming as the Great White Hope, Great White Hype. And I had talks with, including one with my kid, who was saying, you know what she's doing for the league is simply incredible.
Yeah.
Getting so much attention. Viewership was up 48%, which was remarkable. And you can't, I mean, but how could you argue that it's not because of her? And I'm sure Angel Reese too.
All right.
But when you look at the United States of America and you look at the breakdown ethnically, that the large part of the portion of the country is white. Thus,
Yeah.
who's kind of, and she got Rookie of the Year, well
Yeah.
deserved. Reese, I saw. I don't know if it was legitimate comment or if it was something that was half BS and half just trying to get your attention and half fabricated. Where Angel Reese said, and I didn't research it like I should have. Like I'll be back next year and I'll get the I don't know if she meant MVP, but I'll get an award next year, right? But Caitlin Clark, her numbers, she if Angel Reese was still there, her numbers just showed that she deserved to get Rookie of the Year. If Angel Reese didn't get hurt, I should say. Angel Reese got hurt 3 quarters of the way through the season and had a great first season too. But you look at Caitlin Clark scoring, assists, her impact, right? Nothing short of remarkable. And I think she was in the MVP voting too. Right? Just a great, great season. And she came out a couple of weeks ago and liked a Taylor Swift comment, and she got beat up
Right.
bad by a lot of fans, right? Saying that stay out of politics. Like, what do you mean stay out of politics? I can't have an opinion because I'm an athlete. Keep my opinion
She
myself.
just liked it, and her thing was like, oh, I just liked it, the idea of going to vote, or whatever.
Yeah, bullshit, right? If you like a Taylor Swift comment saying you're voting for Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you're not voting,
Yeah, just stand by it. It's cool.
right? That's my only thing. If you're going to commit to it, just say I'm committing to it, and if you're liking a Taylor Swift comment, I think it's pretty clear. But she's playing in a league, she's playing in a sport that is predominantly non-white and African American, black, whatever you want to say it. And the majority of players, I'm sure, are going to be supporting Kamala Harris, right, and not Donald Trump. If not all of them, I hope all of them, but that's not. But I do like. I love that Caitlin Clark endorsed it, and now she's got to continue. Then there was somebody that came out and said when I got to be careful not mixing up and confusing coming out when you talk about WNBA, right?
Yeah, good point.
Who said playing in Indiana was really rough and experienced a lot of racism, just dealing with the fans and some of the comments that were made. But I think it's great for the sport. I think Caitlin Clark has been great for the sport. I think Angel Reese has been great for the sport. I think now some of the other players are being followed closer
Yeah.
and being recognized for their value, right,
Yep.
and their ability to play.
I mean, is Caitlin seems like a one of those, what is the saying? A rising tide lifts all ships, boats. She's that rising tide, and the NBA is kind of, you know, being lifted, and everyone on that boat is being lifted as well. They shouldn't complain.
I think that you can still have your thoughts, but at the same time recognize what she's doing
Yeah,
and be grateful, right? You can still. I understand. I completely get it because she's not the best player, but she's a really really good player, and she's getting all the attention. And even when someone's getting all the attention, if you're in the trenches, can you recognize objectively
that
what's
she's
really
great.
going
No, she's
on?
fun to watch. She's fun to watch. It's hard to argue she's not fun to watch. It's kind of like, I remember when Jordan was coming up and the older generation, which would be like probably my dad and your dad, like he's a ball hog, he's selfish, he can't do it all himself. There was a lot of that talk and a lot of haters. And then when he started winning, you started slowly seeing everyone turn. I'm wondering if that's the case here, where a lot of people are going to hate. If she starts winning, maybe it turns the tide and everyone's going to be on Team Caitlin.
She did start winning,
Yeah,
right? But
yeah,
I think it's a different, right? I think that I don't. There is the race issue involved in this.
yeah,
Like it or don't like it, believe it or don't believe it. It's you can't argue it. There
yeah,
really is that factor when you're talking about this. This I would liken it more to Larry Bird, right? Except Larry Bird came with Magic, and there was
right,
Lloyd and there was Jordan, right? Now
right.
Caitlin Clark with Angel Reese and a couple other players who are really good, but she really is who everybody's talking about, and she's lifted and she's elevated the viewership and the game and the sport, right? Arenas are being sold out. People are buying her jersey. Like it's like Bronny James. People are buying his jersey.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Like I don't know. I don't want to say no. Like I said, Caitlin Clark could be completely wrong. I didn't say Caitlin Clark couldn't play, but I just felt like she was getting, I guess, more attention because of probably because she's white, right? And listen, she had a great season, and I'm happy for her, and I'm happy for the league, and I'm happy for people for fans. So
I
it's
think
great.
I don't know. I don't know how much it plays. I mean, definitely it plays some kind of role, but I also think her playing style is more than anything. Like it's got a Curry, like she takes really wild. You could argue not great shots and they go in and it's fun to watch. And I'm not sure race has a lot to do with that. There is something that engages you because, I guess basketball is predominantly black and then you've got some, in the sport of minority and there's more whites in America that are probably happy to see her succeeding in a black dominant sport. But I don't know. I would argue it's a kind of a perfect storm of her, and we've talked about it in the past. She's not like supermodel pretty. Like, I think that helps her. Like, I think it helps her to look a little more, not as terrible for me to say as ugly as I am to say anything about someone's looks, but you know what I mean? Like, she's like a normal looking person, normal looking white girl who's dominant, and it's got to be inspiring for a lot of people, right? Like, which is kind of nice, if I'm being honest.
It's a good point, right? Now I'm not, for the haters, I'm not hating you because you're beautiful,
Right.
right? I'm not liking you because you're beautiful, whatever it is. You're right. She's not. I don't think she's attractive, but I've been in places where I've had conversations with other people who think she's really attractive, and part of her, part of their attraction to her could have been her style of basketball play, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just looking for stats. She shot 34% from three, right? 41%, almost 42% from two.
Incredible.
From she had a great season. But no, it's
Great
it's
season.
talk about looks, T Dubs. That's a great point.
Yeah.
It really is. Now, how would she be viewed if she were seen as what the standards are of most people seen as a beautiful woman, whether black or white,
Right. I
right?
think there would be a lot more. I don't want haters is not the word. I think there would be a lot more people saying, "You guys are only watching her because she's beautiful. You're only popular because you're hot. You're only this because of and, like there would be a lot more of that and that and she's doesn't have that narrative at least. It's not one more excuse for someone to say, "Oh, you don't the only reason you like her is because of this." So I think it plays in her favor.
I just was looking up stats, and she got a lot better as the season went along.
Yeah, she did.
In her last 10 games, she averaged 21, almost 22 points, almost 11 assists, and 6 rebounds. Her first 10 games, 17 points, 6.5 assists, 5 rebounds, 5.4. Her middle 10, 15 and a half, 15 points. So it was awesome to see. Like, who knows how good
Amazing.
she's
That is
but
amazing.
the transition, of course, from college to NBA, or WNBA is really tough. So we got less than a minute. What are we doing?
Well, I'll send you a new link. We'll jump back on. We'll continue here in 2 seconds.
All right. So I think your point was so good to bring up and raise about the looks. It's the subject that not many people. I haven't heard anybody talk about it.
Yeah,
Like,
it's kind of a tough one to talk about, honestly, because it's not like she's unattractive. She's a perfectly attractive person. It's just like she's not like supermodel hot,
she's
which I
not
think
right, but also attraction is a matter of preference.
yeah, it is. And I think that's one thing that this generation I've noticed as is much better about. If you just look at like you know, quote unquote celebrities and influencers today. It's not all about looks. Back in the 80s and 90s, you're talking Cindy Crawford and you're talking, people Madonna and Jordan and just like Tiger Woods, like all these people seem way more model-esque. Whereas today, there's a lot more celebrities that are, Mr. Beast and you're talking on the rap scene, Lil Yachty and Post Malone and like people that look a little more I don't know, normal.
Yeah, but I'll say this also. I'll say that men and women have different There's a different standard for men and women, right?
Yeah,
Women who are seen as successful in their industry, they're already seen as attractive, right? So Michael Jordan, people say, "Oh my God, Michael Jordan's so fine," I was like, "Really?" Because if Michael Jordan was working at McDonald's, you'd be going to talk to him,
right.
and people are like, "Yeah, yeah," and I'm like, "Stop," because there's other people that look better than Michael Jordan who are working at McDonald's, not talking to them.
Right.
And I think women, you have to be beautiful to be on the cover of a certain magazine, right? And you have to be the right complexion, right?
Right.
I think there's all those factors too. I don't, I
It's
don't think it's
I would
simple.
say it's almost the reverse too, that in that maybe it's a Hollywood thing where it was like, hey, if you don't look the part, I'm not going to put you in the part. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you don't look like a star, you're not going to be a star. Like that was probably 80s and 90s.
But Amy Winehouse, who had tattoos all over her body, right, is not going to be seen as someone whose standard in the standard is gorgeous and beautiful. Whereas Post Malone, who's got tattoos, I don't. If I were a woman, I don't think I'd be attracted to him. Maybe
Right.
my
Right.
style, but he could get away with being seen as an icon or somebody who might be able to because he is. he's a male and he's very successful, right?
Yeah.
Or somewhat successful. A large following, and some people completely
No,
dislike him.
totally. I mean, even like we even go down Joe Rogan, another like, pretty relatively normal. I know he does like jujitsu and stuff, but he's like a fairly next door kind of guy and super famous.
Yeah.
Which I'm not sure that, people were just it maybe that's just my perception of how I grew up, but I just kind of remember the Christopher Reeves and everyone being sort of that look of, that Hollywood look, the Brad Pitt, the George Clooney, that like Hollywood male model looking thing it felt more dominant back then. Doesn't seem to be the case now, which is amazing, really nice. Which is
Yeah.
probably a good segue into our next topic of what's happening with P. Diddy and how is that going to influence sports if these names, some of the bigger names like LeBron and D Wade and all these names appear on these Diddy lists. What happens? Like, I don't even know. How do we respond? Like, what do we think? Like, what are
If
your
it's true,
thoughts?
if it's true that they were there and they were engaging in drug activity and or some kind of sexual tryst or whatever they were doing there,
Yeah, we
will their
don't know.
right, will their legacy, or maybe they were just hanging out at the party,
Right.
right? Will their legacies be diluted, or will their legacies be tainted? I should say not diluted, but tainted.
Yeah,
Um, and will they be looked at differently by some people? Absolutely,
100%.
right? Because you have purists that are going to follow them and who are going to judge them. And one of the things about LeBron is that he has stayed out of trouble in
Yeah,
what's considered trouble, right? He hasn't done anything to like be in amongst the public, amongst the general public, that he's had affairs, that he's been involved with drug use, that he's been involved
right,
in gangs, that he's been involved in whatever it is. Known as a great family man, has done incredibly well business wise,
right,
right? But now, if people understand this differently, and that he was involved in some of those activities that were happening at the P Diddy parties,
party.
and
Yeah,
but also being involved in P Diddy with with the knowledge, if and then there's of course, were they aware of what he was doing and how he
what
was
was
doing it,
going on. Yeah,
right? Were they aware that if one of the charges and is convicted of trafficking,
right,
they aware of it? Were they aware of him beating up women,
right,
right? And if he was really their boy, like how much do you let your boy get away with it? How much do you let your homeboy get away with this? Or how much, or do you hold them accountable like you would hold somebody else accountable, or do you just sever ties with them? Right. So
right,
it's interesting to see now. I've seen a little bit of this. Some people all of a sudden be like, not me, I wasn't down with Diddy. Right. And then some people are staying quiet.
right, right. It is going to be an interesting one on how this shakes out, right? It's the I don't know, rapper version of Epstein, I guess. Um, it's very scary. Like the stuff that I'm like, I don't know what to believe at any. I'll believe anything at this point. Like the stuff I'm hearing, it seems so far-fetched, but also like, why would you make any of this up? It's just so random. With these like whatever freak off parties, and he's like, you know, voting in, I guess, children. I don't even know, man. It's crazy.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, they're saying. I mean, you know, I'm just spreading more rumors, I guess. But like I saw that because of his place in Miami was next to the port, and he's having ports deliver literally, human trafficking people over and dropping off at these parties, and they're slaves to him. Um, I don't know. I have no idea. Like if any of that is true. Terrifying if it is. But like these, and other people are taking part in it, then who God knows what. Like that sounds horrific, if that's the case. But I don't know. I mean, you hear these rumors, but we don't know what's true and what's not. So just leave it at that.
Yeah. I agree with you. I don't want to spread rumors. that stuff that's not true or may or may not be true. So I
But
think
like
it's
that goes like what if some of you know, these superstars that we think about, maybe they're not involved with child human trafficking and all that, but they're in these like weird, you know, freak offs with Diddy. That's yeah. Anyway, that just seems already like we're talking
it's,
about things that I guess hasn't happened or at least hasn't come public with, a superstar who comes out and says, "Hey, you know what? I'm involved in all these crazy parties and orgies and random things." Like that seems like stuff that should not get out, but it seems like it's about to.
has there been anything like this that you can think of in the past? I can't think of
Derrick
anything.
Rose, the only other one.
Ooh,
Derrick Rose? You're looking at me like, what? No, Derrick
ooh.
Rose had to go to trial for like some woman came out and said that she was gang raped by Derrick Rose and her friends, and then they all came out and said it was consensual. And they walked through, and that was like the weirdest one I remember.
Well, there's a
Uh,
lot of them, right, where there's accusations, but I mean like big, massive parties where multiple people may have been involved. I mean, you got, of course, you have what's his name, uh, uh,
Dwight Howard.
scheme guy,
Yeah,
um,
you're right. There's not many.
um, yeah, who what politicians who killed himself,
Yeah.
right? Who allegedly connected to
What
Trump.
about let's go back to Dwight Howard for a moment. He's recently come out with, some weird like I don't even know if they're allegations, but it clearly is he's having relations with yes, seems to be bisexual or some sort of like into transgenders. I'm talking out of the side of my mouth here. I don't really know what you call this stuff. Does that affect his legacy at all, or are people? I mean, it seems like no one cares. Like I surely don't, but it seems like yeah, whatever. It's Dwight Howard.
He's troubled. He seems troubled, right?
Yeah.
Just this is maybe not fair, and I hate to like judge because I just don't know a lot what's going on. But I just read another article yesterday where he may have lost $7 million, $6 or $7 million in some kind of scam with along with Chandler Parsons.
Oh yeah,
Chandler
that's right.
$1 million because they were got involved in this scam that where they, I guess, invested into the development of James Wiseman through an alleged agent, which is really strange. But it's also like $6 million, $7 million, whatever Dwight Howard lost. It was a lot of freaking money
Wow.
and something like that. But then I guess there has been reports about Dwight Howard being engaged in I guess bisexual or homosexual activity.
Yeah.
Guess what? If it's true, maybe this is helpful for a lot of people,
Yeah.
right? Maybe he's helping to break down the barriers of being like
Yeah.
professional athletes, especially big, strong, and I think he's a fairly good looking dude.
Yeah.
Can be homosexual, and it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like nobody cares, which I think is great, personally.
But I think nobody cares because Dwight Howard isn't like in the news anymore.
Right. Yeah. He's
Not
not
in the
playing
NBA.
anymore.
He's not in the NBA. He's not relevant really when it comes to. I just if he is going through a lot of stuff, including losing this much money, I hope he's okay. I mean, I don't know him at all. If he's a nice guy, I hope he's a good guy. I hope he's okay. If he's a jerk, then
Right.
maybe this is unfair of me. Maybe I should have more empathy and compassion. But if he's treating people badly, then too bad. But you know, I'm hoping that he can sort of break down barriers, right? In professional sports for people to be able to have whatever type of sexual relationships they want, as long as they're being healthy, as long as
Yeah.
they're not spreading any diseases and being unhealthy with themselves and being a danger to other people.
Yeah. I'm with you. Whatever you want to do, what um, that's your business, and that's not for us to judge. And like it's unfair for us to judge him for what he wants to do. Like, truthfully, like that's my take on it. I'm like, hey, it's cool. I hope it doesn't affect his legacy. People don't think one way or the other. But surely it doesn't matter. He's an incredible basketball player. maybe, people don't even talk about it really anymore. But at his peak, when they went to the finals, like he was incredible, incredible defender. Like his shot blocking was, yeah, like I don't remember a center being like that. Like maybe Shaq was dominant, but Dwight Howard was he was incredible. He was an incredible player. Anyway, that it was also that brings me to another. Not, I wouldn't say off topic, but there was a documentary. I don't know if you've seen it. Will Ferrell. Um, you should look it up on Netflix. I'll look up the name. I'll link it below. But essentially, Will Ferrell's friend, like one of his best friends, that's 60 years old, emails him and says he is transitioning to a woman, and it catches Will totally off guard. He's had married with kids, and he's all of a sudden like, hey, heads up, I'm transitioning to a woman. And then Will Ferrell proposed them go on a trip together so they can get reacquainted and he can ask questions, and it turned into a documentary. And he's just like,
Cool.
"You're my friend. I didn't know. How did I not know? How did this come about? What does this mean for us as friends?" And it's really fascinating. It's like incredibly fast because like we've talked about it. Most people don't have exposure and don't understand what is happening, and for him to like do it in such an open form way, and both on both sides, like Will Ferrell being naive and not understanding it, and then them just like kind of like you see it play out in a documentary. It's fascinating. They drive across the country, and they kind of goof around and do stuff and get reacquainted as friends, but as a woman instead of a man. It's pretty neat. I was surprised. I was watching it. I was like, "What is this?" I started watching it. My wife was like, What are you watching?" She started sitting down. She's like, "Oh, this is different. I had no idea any of it." Like we're in our bubbles of and if you don't know someone directly that's a transgender, it's hard to know to understand it. And he kind of will just kind of ask some questions like, and it's
That's awesome.
fascinating. Yeah, you
It's
should
awesome.
definitely
And
tune in.
also, I hope it makes people think when they don't understand something or when
Yeah,
they're not connected to something, and before they judge, it
right.
tells people maybe I should ask questions.
Yeah,
Maybe I should. It's okay for me to ask questions. It's okay for me to think differently. It's
yeah.
okay for something to be different. How do I how do I come to terms with it? Or even if I might not agree with it, maybe I can try to learn more about it and find out more about it. I love that approach.
Yeah, it's really cool. And like you don't know what you don't know, right? Just staying like a lot of times we just assume we know one thing. But it's kind of nice to like have your eyes open to something you don't understand, and then you're like, oh, now I understand a little better, and I should probably be more sensitive. Because like truthfully, when I heard like transgender going into the bathroom, I'm like, who cares? What's the big deal? It doesn't matter. Like, and then hearing some of the things he said about it, it's like, oh, okay. Makes a lot more sense to me now in terms of like um what's happening and how difficult that must be. Like it's not his fault. Like I think the one thing that I don't know helped me understand a little more was him just saying I like all of these years I have felt like a woman in a man's body, and now I'm just trying to be who I am inside, even though on the outside I know I can't look like that, but that's how I feel on the inside. And it's just me trying to cope with it, and he doesn't know either, which I think is interesting. I don't know.
That's gonna be so hard,
Yeah, it's got to be really hard.
challenging if you feel like someone you're not. That and yeah, and also courageous.
And totally. I mean, it's got to be frustrating because I think Will Ferrell goes, "How do you feel? Like how do you like you're all like they got dressed up to go to a fancy dinner, and he's like, you look great, and he's like, come on, I know how I look like, and and he's like, but I have to accept this. Like this is like I'm not a
Wait,
woman.
you said he got dressed up as to go out to dinner? Did he get dressed up as a woman or as a
Yeah, yeah,
man?
he got dressed up as a woman. Like they went to like a nice dinner. And he was like, put on your nicest clothes. They went shopping. Like she put on her makeup. She got her hair done. She put on her heels. But she still looks like a man. Like it's no way around
He
it.
transitioned and
What's that?
he transitioned and medically.
Partially, yeah. So yeah, I mean, he's fully in. And so Will was like, oh, you look great. And then he's just like, hey, you look great. And he's like, how do you feel? And he's like, he was truthful about it. He was like, hey, look, I know I don't look great, but for me, it makes me happy to be a woman and come out and dress up and do all these things that I never thought I could ever do.
Share that title, please.
Yeah, it was fascinating
Yeah,
because at the same time, he's like, hey, I know I'll never look right. Like I want to be a beautiful woman. I know that's not even possible without crazy surgeries and things like that. Even then, he's like, I don't think it'll ever look right. So, but like. So he's essentially saying, "Hey, what I really want, I can't have. That's how I feel, and I have to struggle. I have to live with that, which I feel like is really, I don't know, it's pretty sad, but also like interesting.
well, no one can look like they all. Like, most people don't look like they want to look like,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Most
true.
people aren't like completely satisfied with their height, with their
Right.
weight,
Yeah,
with
that's
their
true.
look, right? Like you made a comment that you said earlier that you're not the best looking guy. I disagree with you. I think you're very handsome and you're I'm
Appreciate
the
it.
I tell people I'm 6 feet. I'm 5'10" and a half, 5'11". I want to be 6'3", right? I want to be 6'4". I want to be better looking, right? So I hear him. I don't think any of us, most of us, are like wouldn't want to change out some parts of our
Yeah, that's
whatever
true. You're never going
body.
to be totally
Right,
satisfied on that front, right?
right, right. I think it's a little different. What he said, it's a lot different in terms of men versus women. But I mean, in terms of being beautiful and what the standards are of a beautiful person. But I think a lot of beauty is within too, right? And I think that it
Totally.
can't be discounted. That can't be devalued.
So then that all of that leads to my question of will we see a transgender athlete at some point that becomes a superstar?
So I think
That's a loaded one. That's a tough one.
I don't know. I think what's going to happen is, well, I don't know when. Well, you're already seeing it in women's sports.
I'm talking LeBron James level star, but
Well,
as a
are you
trans
a women's sport or
in
in a man? Women,
any
you're not going to see a woman transition to a superstar
man.
man,
Okay, so the other way around.
right? I mean, just
Do you
the other
think
way
it's
around.
possible?
I think you're already seeing it. Will they be accepted or will they be allowed, permitted, or will they continue to be prohibited from playing in professional leagues?
Right,
Right. One and two. I think if if you know the if there's a huge influx of transition athletes, perhaps there's a new transition league. I don't know how much of a following it gets,
right,
right? But, if you have or if you have 100 transition athletes playing in this particular sport,
right,
maybe the sport,
right.
right? There's always going to be a controversy around it.
Totally,
Always, always,
totally.
always. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting one. Anyway, that's a little off tangent, but
The question is always going to be: does someone have an unfair advantage? And I think that's
right,
going to be that's going to go to court,
yeah,
right? There's going to be
right.
who's going to sue somebody, and it's going to go to the Supreme Court possibly, and there's going to be a decision made within the Supreme Court. I think if it comes down to if there's a number of cases that continue to happen, that's my prediction.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I guess we have seen one transgender superstar in Bruce Jenner. So we've seen that now. She Bruce to Caitlyn Jenner, right? Like that was the biggest one. It doesn't get much bigger than that, truthfully, but
The swimmer,
no, he was the decathlon athlete, right?
I'm talking about recently.
Oh, recently, yeah, in the swimmer. I'm just talking about overall, like
Yeah,
as a
yeah.
star, gold medalist, superstar athlete turns woman. We've seen that once, and you know the education that happened around that. I think
Yeah.
it's fascinating. I don't know, like after watching it, I mean, truthfully, I had no interest at all, but after watching it, it's a little more interesting.
It certainly is. And when
It's thought
you
provoking, I should say, and I don't want to make it like someone else's like struggle in life is like entertaining. Like that's not what I mean, but it's just like, hey, it's a thing that I should probably educate and be more understanding of.
but think about it, like 30 years ago when homosexuality was a lot less, when people were, I don't want to say a lot less acceptable, when people were a lot less accepting of it and tolerant
Right.
of it, right? When people were getting killed and
Right.
beaten, and it still happens to this day,
Right.
or when interracial marriages, or there's an
Yeah,
evolve,
all of it.
there's an involvement. So in 20 years, transgenders are going to be seen as there's going to be a different perspective
Normal.
overall.
Yeah, I mean, how much of it is, I imagine they were, and when we were growing up in 20 years ago, there were people that felt like women, they just didn't do anything about it. And now you have technology that can help you. And now you have support groups and online communities and things where you probably don't feel as alone that you can, do these things. And I mean, it's still totally not accepted, but like to like, a massive level, but like now it's getting there. Like people are a little more understanding of it. You see all gender bathrooms, you see all these things that are like a little more accepting, especially here in the Bay Area. It's kind of nice. I don't know.
I don't know when it happens in Oklahoma or
Oh,
Texas.
probably not. It is nice. I mean, I don't know. Like, I guess in my years out here in the Bay, I've been opened my eyes to see a lot more things and be a hell of a lot more open than I was when I was in Virginia. And just truthfully, I never even heard of a gay person till I, like, literally, I never had met one. I never heard, like, it just wasn't a thing. This is, I graduated at UVA in 1999. And, people joked about it, but I had never met a gay person. It never crossed my mind. Like,
You
it
still
never.
met gay, you definitely met some gay people
I
that
definitely
just
met someone like open out of the closet gay, like someone that was gay. Just didn't have it. Just didn't. It never crossed. It was never in my purview, and that's how closed off you could say how I was, or my community, or my people, or whatever, my friends. That's just how it was. I was it's probably not as open as even your background when you're coming up in a big city. I'm from a small country. Like we play sports and hang out. There was very little interaction with you just didn't open your eyes to things. Everything was pretty closed off. So for me, I feel like I've come a long way. It's just kind of wild.
yeah, no, I wish, unfortunately more people aren't as open-minded and compassionate.
Yeah, it's part of it is seeing it and meeting people and understanding it and just being like accepting of it. Like if you're in your little bubble, I totally understand how you could just not understand it, not care about it, and be sort of, um, I don't know, cut off from it. Then you
Yeah.
just don't care because it doesn't affect you. Like if you're going to work and you're working with people that are great and you meet them and they are you know, different, you still care about them, you still like them, then you realize, hey, we're all kind of alike. Um, that's kind of the amazing thing about traveling the world, right?
Absolutely, no question. I don't think there's a greater experience
Yeah,
in travel and a greater education than traveling the world. But how do you? A lot of people can't get if it's known that someone's gay, or if it's known that someone's black, or if it's known that someone's white, or if it's known that someone's whatever religion, race,
yeah,
Muslim. The people who are so anti that particular ethnicity, religion, whatever, they might not be able to get past. A lot of
right.
people can't get over that wall. Can't break through that wall,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Because of
it's
religion, because of the way they were conditioned, because of the way they were raised, whatever it is.
right,
They're not strong enough, they're not smart enough, and they're not educated enough
right,
to be open minded about it.
right.
Right?
Yeah,
So
that's very true. I think just I'm just thinking of me personally growing up in an all white and black community, being a minority, and it helped to me a lot in terms of empathy towards other people, right? Because no one understood what it was like to be a Chinese person, an Asian person in a community of all black and whites, and how that makes you
yeah,
it's definitely an outlier. So maybe there's a little more of a soft spot for me in
no,
terms
it's
of
a great
that.
point. It's a great point, and I hopefully that a lot of people are like you and think about it. Hey, because I'm a small minority in this big ocean or this big pond, whatever. I should be empathetic and
Yeah,
compassionate.
sympathetic towards other people.
Some of the situations. I listened to this great podcast a couple of weeks ago about this doctor who was Muslim living in I can't remember what state it was, and he was saving people. He was literally saving people. He was a doctor to so many of the community, very and it turned out a very religious community, Christian or Catholic, whatever it was. and it was right before the election of 2016. And he's like, okay, Trump is not going to win. Everything's going to be fine. Trump wins. And he's finding out all the people that he were his patients voted for Trump. And he's like, Trump wants me out of this country.
Right.
Trump doesn't want to admit me and my family. How could you vote for him? I just saved your life. And he got, well, you're different, right? You're not typical Muslim, or you're my doctor, whatever the reasons were, right? It was a fascinating podcast. It was so good.
Yeah, that's
Only
cool. No,
really
I've
stood by.
I've actually heard that before. I've had that exact conversation with people who made fun. I remember as a kid, people making fun of Chinese people and doing all these things, like, and they would literally look at me and be like, "Well, you're different. You're one of us." I'm like, "No, I'm not. Like, I'm not. I'm literally actually the one you're making fun of." Which, uh, you
I
know,
got that in college, right? I got that in college a ton.
yeah,
Yeah. We talked about this, how my mom was black and my dad was white. I consider myself black. And of course, there is a little bit of a difference, I guess, than me. But ultimately, for me, I was raised recognizing that I am black with a white dad.
yeah,
Right? I got that. I heard a lot of it. Well, you're different and you're not, whatever. But you're straight Chinese, right? You're full Chinese,
yeah.
and
Full Chinese.
and right. And so the conversation, we've all experienced that. People of colors, if you I guess speak a certain way to the standard of how they view you,
Yeah.
right? And you're different. Like, no, no, I'm really
I mean, yeah, I heard that a lot. Like, you're different. You're like us. And I always thought of that meaning I was raised in, and schooled in an all white and black environment. So people thought that was different. And it is probably true, right? If you're talking about somebody who's like from China, moves to America when they're 20, very different than me growing up here and being, I am literally uh, an American. Like, truthfully. Um, so yeah, I guess from that standpoint, it's right. I don't know. It's a tough one. It's one of the I think every American born immigrant feels that way. Like, I'm not part of my culture and I'm not part of this culture fully. I'm in the middle.
I know how you I know you feel it, yeah.
Which is fine at this point.
Yep.
I was thinking that too, like traveling the world and hearing other people speak other languages and you having to adapt that stuff definitely helps with your empathy, right? Because when you go to another country and you can't speak their language, you get humbled very quickly. Like, oh, wow, I can't communicate. I need help. And when someone is nice and like shows you directions and tries to, like you feel it. And then when you come home and the first time you see someone else struggling to speak English, you definitely have more empathy for that person because you have been that person before. Whereas someone who's born is like, hey, learn to speak English. Why'd you come here? So easy to do that, right? It's so easy to say, why'd you come here if you can't speak English versus, try visiting a country that doesn't speak English and see how you feel. Like, I think
That's
Europe does a great job, right? Europe does a great job because there's so many countries that are together and like, lots of people know a little bit of French and German just to get by so they can move around. Whereas this is not a thing. You go to, like you said, you go to Oklahoma and it's English and nothing else. And it's hard. Like, those people have never left Oklahoma. So what are you gonna do? Like, it's hard for them to relate. But
one of the
anyway,
values, one of the other benefits of traveling.
yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
That the
We're
world is
get
bigger than me. The world is bigger than my small little community. The world is bigger than my small little town. Bigger than my block. Bigger than my state. Bigger than my country. The world
yeah,
is a place, and it's not just about me.
yeah. It's so helpful. Hard to do, obviously, depending on your circumstances, but I definitely appreciate it.
Right.
Anyway, we're way off topic, but very cool.
Speaking of Chinese, let's talk about Otani. I'm kidding.
Love
Joke.
it. I love it. Um, Otani killed. He's crushing it.
He's so
50-50 club.
so ridiculous.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I remember hearing about him. People were saying that he was going to be he's the next Babe Ruth. And I was like, really? And then I'm like, okay, he can actually be an incredible pitcher and hitter. Then he stopped pitching, I guess, last year. And now he's and then he does 50. I'm like, this guy, he's incredible.
It's amazing,
It is amazing.
amazing. Look at it now. He ended up. Did he end up batting? He ended up batting over 300, right?
Yeah.
This
I mean, have we ever had an Asian? No, I can't say the face of a sport being an Asian or even an international player. That's never happened really, right? Jeremy Lin for like 2 weeks as
What's
being
his
an
name?
Asian person, but like
What's,
face of the league, he's about to be it next year.
yeah, I
He
mean, he
is going
should
to
be.
be in every poster. He's the number one selling jersey. He's the superstar. Like, I see
54 home runs.
rappers wearing his Japanese jersey. It's really cool.
54 home runs. I'm trying to see how many stolen bases. This thing doesn't have.
Gotta be 52 now, I think.
What's over 50
Incredible.
because I think he was 51, 51 club. 54 stolen bases. I mean, that's incredible. 54 home
Um,
runs.
Unbelievable.
59 stolen bases.
Holy cow. So yeah, this is
Not only stealing 4 times.
so we are now definitely entering a new world where a U.S. league professional athlete is international and is leading, is the face of the league. I mean,
Yeah.
Luca has a chance to do it. Giannis kind of did it, I guess, but
We still
this,
got Steph, right?
yeah, this is
LeBron.
interesting.
But yeah, Otani's definitely, yeah, he's definitely got a great opportunity to do it. He's ridiculous. I need him to continue to do it in the postseason personally because I did a futures bet.
But the Dodgers, so nice.
It was in April or March for the third straight year, being like, okay, they're going to do it this year for like $20.
Well, that's awesome. You got some skin in the game. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm rooting for him anyway. Anybody that good, and oh man, how good is he?
Yeah,
Ridiculous. What's the
amazing.
impact you think he's having on baseball? And what is the if so, what is it impact he's having on baseball amongst young people?
It's got to be huge,
Um,
especially
in this country
especially
or in Japan?
both. I mean, in Japan, he's huge. I hear, all of his stuff everywhere is selling out in Japan. Um, and all these Japanese fans are now following the Dodgers. I think like it's something. I saw some stat this season was like 80% of um, Japanese tourists in LA when it came to a Dodgers game. Something crazy like that. It's
It's so
pretty cool.
yeah.
So it's definitely a thing.
But I ask about the impact because when I ride through New York City in the Central Park, and what used to be there's I don't know 12 to 15 baseball fields, and I grew up playing there when I was young, and the fields were awful. They were like rock infields, rock patched infields, and now they're beautifully manicured. No one's playing baseball whenever I go there.
Yeah,
There's lots of they've been overtaken by soccer. There's
soccer.
soccer put up
Yeah,
and they're playing soccer, and it just seems like there's a major shift amongst youth
yeah,
going from baseball to soccer and basketball.
yeah,
Everybody's playing. It seems like everybody's playing soccer and everybody's playing basketball.
yeah. I mean, in my mind, baseball has been dead for a long time because I mean it's just slower. It's a slower paced game in today's sort of like short attention span. It's hard. It's hard for baseball to get capture the mind share of attention of young people when it's just not that action packed. It's like 10 minutes of action packed into 5 hours. Like it's tough. Like, um,
There's still a lot of fans that come to baseball games.
totally.
Like, there's a lot of fans that go to soccer games too, but there's still a ton of fans, and the salaries in baseball are still blooming.
Yeah.
And soccer in the United States, I don't think the salaries are that high versus, of course,
No.
Europe when you compare the
No,
two.
but I think a lot of the salaries and things are, I mean, I don't want to say old money, but it's like the old way of doing, like it's those long broadcast rights, TV deals that were etched in MLB ages ago. So, uh, Comcast, all these old programs had bought and committed to buying these things, and they got advertised